ISO 24613-2008, Language Resource Management, Lexical Markup Framework, is the ISO International Organization for Standardization ISO TC37 standard for natural language processing and machine-readable dictionary lexicons. The scope is standardization of principles and methods relating to language resources in the contexts of multilingual communication and cultural diversity. Objectives of LMF. The goals of LMF are to provide a common model for the creation and use of lexical resources, to manage the exchange of data between and among these resources, and to enable the merging of large number of individual electronic resources to form extensive global electronic resources. Types of individual instantiations of LMF can include monolingual, bilingual or multilingual lexical resources. The same specifications are to be used for both small and large lexicons, for both simple and complex lexicons, for both written and spoken lexical representations. The descriptions range from morphology, syntax, computational semantics to computer-assisted translation. The covered languages are not restricted to European languages but cover all natural languages. The range of targeted NLP applications is not restricted. LMF is able to represent most lexicons, including WordNet, EDR and parole lexicons. History of LMF. In the past, lexicon standardization has been studied and developed by a series of projects like GenLex, EDR, Eagles, Multext, Parole, Simple and ISLE. Then, the ISO TC37 national delegations decided to address standards dedicated to NLP and lexicon representation. The work on LMF started in summer 2003 by a new work item proposal issued by the U.S. delegation. In fall 2003, the French delegation issued a technical proposition for a data model dedicated to NLP lexicons. In early 2004, the ISO TC37 committee decided to form a common ISO project with Nicoletta Quartzolari as convener and Gil Francopoulos and Monty George as editors. The first step in developing LMF was to design an overall framework based on the general features of existing lexicons and to develop a consistent terminology to describe the components of those lexicons. The next step was the actual design of a comprehensive model that best represented all of the lexicons in detail. A large panel of 60 experts contributed a wide range of requirements for LMF that covered many types of NLP lexicons. The editors of LMF worked closely with a panel of experts to identify the best solutions and reach a consensus on the design of LMF. Special attention was paid to the morphology in order to provide powerful mechanisms for handling problems in several languages that were known as difficult to handle. 13 versions have been written, dispatched, commented and discussed during various ISO technical meetings. After 5 years of work, including numerous face-to-face meetings and email exchanges, the editors arrived at a coherent UML model. In conclusion, LMF should be considered a synthesis of the state-of-the-art in NLP lexicon field. Current stage, the ISO number is 24613. The LMF specification has been published officially as an international standard on November 17, 2008. LMF is one of the members of the ISO TC37 family of standards. The ISO TC37 standards are currently elaborated as high-level specifications and deal with word segmentation, annotations, feature structures, multimedia containers, and lexicons. These standards are based on low-level specifications dedicated to constants, namely data categories, language codes, scripts codes, country codes and Unicode. The two-level organization forms a coherent family of standards with the following common and simple rules. The high-level specification provides structural elements that are adorned by the standardized constants. The low-level specifications provide standardized constants as metadata. Key standards used by LMF. The linguistics constants like or are not defined within LMF but are recorded in the data category registry that is maintained as a global resource by ISO TC37 in compliance with ISO IEC 11179-3 2003, 1. And these constants are used to adorn the high-level structural elements. The LMF specification complies with the modeling principles of Unified Modeling Languages defined by Object Management Group. The structure is specified by means of UML class diagrams. The examples are presented by means of UML instance diagrams. An XML DTD is given in an annex of the LMF document. Model structure: LMF is composed of the following components: the core package, that is the structural skeleton which describes the basic hierarchy of information in a lexical entry. Extensions of the core package which are expressed in a framework that describes the reuse of the core components in conjunction with the additional components required for a specific lexical resource. The extensions are specifically dedicated to morphology, MRD, NLP syntax, NLP semantics, NLP multilingual notations, NLP morphological patterns, multi-word expression patterns, and constraint expression patterns. A tiny example: in the following example, the lexical entry is associated with a lemma clergyman and two inflected forms clergyman and clergyman. The language coding is set for the whole lexical resource. The language value is set for the whole lexicon as shown in the following UML instance diagram. The elements lexical resource, global information, lexicon, lexical entry, lemma, and word form define the structure of the lexicon. They are specified within the LMF document. On the contrary, language coding, language, part of speech, common noun, written form, grammatical number, singular, plural are data categories that are taken from the data category registry. These marks adorn the structure. The values ISO 639-3, clergyman, clergymen are plain character strings. The value eng is taken from the list of languages as defined by ISO 639-3. With some additional information like DTD version and feet, the same data can be expressed by the following XML fragment. This example is rather simple. While LMF can represent much more complex linguistic descriptions, the XML tagging is correspondingly complex. A selection of publications about LMF. The first publication about the LMF specification as it has been ratified by ISO. The ninth most cited paper within the Language Resources and Evaluation Conference is from LREC Papers, Language Resources and Evaluation LREC 2006/Genoa, Gilbert Frere Coppola, Monty George, Nicoletta Quartzolari, Monica Monoschini, Nuria Bell, Mandy Pett, Claudia Soria, Lexical Markup Framework, 2, about semantic representation, Gesellschaft für One-Quarter Linguistische Variableitung GLDV 2007/TAR One-Quarter Bingen, Gilbert Frere Coppola, Nuria Bell, Monty George, Nicoletta Quartzolari, Monica Monoschini, Mandy Pett, Claudia Soria, Lexical Markup Framework ISO. Standard for Semantic Information in NLP Lexicons, 3, about African languages, Traitement Automatique des Langues Naturelles, Marseille, 2014, Mouhamadou Koul, Mohamed Ndanko Thiam, El Hadmamadou Gur, toward the establishment of a LMF-based Wolof language lexicon, in French, 4, about Asian languages, Lexicography, Journal of ASILEX, Springer 2014, Lexical Markup Framework, Gil Frere Coppola, Chu Ren Huang, an ISO standard for electronic lexicons and its implications for Asian languages DOI 10.1007 per second 40607-014-0006Z, about European languages, Colling. 2010, Verena and Rich, Irad Hinrichs, Standardizing WordNets in the ISO Standard LMF, WordNet LMF for GermanNet, 5, EACL 2012, Judith Eckel-Kohler, Irina Gorvik, Subcat LMF, Fleshing Out a Standardized Format for Subcategorization Frame Interoperability, 6, EACL 2012, Irina Gorvik, Judith Eckel-Kohler, Silvana Hartmann, Michael Matuszk, Christian M. Mayer, Christian Worth, UBY, a large-scale unified lexical semantic resource based on LMF, 7. About Semitic Languages, Journal of Natural Language Engineering, Cambridge University Press, Aida Kamorkem, Bulgari, Abdulmajid Ben Hamado, Gilbert Frere Coppola, ISO Standard Modeling of a Large Arabic Dictionary. Proceeding of the 7th Global WordNet Conference 2014, Nadia B. M. Kamani, Son Sousa, Adel M. Alami, Building a Standardized WordNet in the ISO LMF for EB language, 8. Proceeding of the workshop, HLT and NLP within Arabic World, LREC 2008, Noorudin Lakil, Case Harder, Abdulmajid Ben Hamado, Towards a Syntactic Lexicon of Arabic Verbs, 9. Traitement Automatic des Langues Naturelles, Toulouse 2007, Kamorkhema, Gargari B., Abdelweta, Francophilogie, Mode Copyrightization des Paradigmes de Flexion des Verbes Arabes selon la norme LMF ISO 24613, 10. Dedicated book, there is a book published in 2013, LMF Lexical Markup Frame, which is entirely dedicated to LMF. The first chapter deals with the history of lexicon models, the second chapter is a formal presentation of the data model, and the third one deals with the relation with the data categories of the ISO DCR. The other 14 chapters deal with a lexicon or a system either in the civil or military domain, either within scientific research labs or for industrial applications. These are WordNet LMF, PRO LMF, DUEM, UBY LMF, LG LMF, Relish, Global Atlas and Wordscape. Related websites LMF website, Lyrics website. Some related scientific communications Language Resources and Evaluation LREC 2006/Genoa, The Relevance of Standards for Research Infrastructures, 11. References. See also, Computational Lexicology, Lexical Semantics, Morphology for explanations concerning paradigms and morphosyntax, Machine Translation for a presentation of the different types of multilingual notations, Morphological Pattern for the difference between a paradigm and a paradigm pattern, WordNet for a presentation of the most famous semantic lexicon for the English language, Universal Terminology Exchange for a user-oriented, alternative format for machine-readable dictionaries, Universal Networking Language, UBY LMF.